It is another day. I have taken a few days at my regular job to think and ponder. I think I know what I'm gonna do. To fix this thing. This needs to be taller. I got some more bricks hiding somewhere in my yard. And I'm just going to make it taller and get more charcoal. That's the problem. That should be perfectly flat. Instead, I can put a finger under it. Oh. Ouch. I just had a really terrible idea. So the problem is these shapes, right? This gets hot, that doesn't, this bends. Very straightforward. I could just cut it. Right there, there, and right there. Heat treat this part. Just go back and weld it back together. It feels like a terrible idea because I'd be cutting apart this thing, but at the same time, it might work really well. I really don't want to do that. But it would solve a lot of problems. Rather than cutting it in those spots, just take a section out of the middle of each one of these. That gets the heat even further away and hides any possible distortion or inclusions or whatever underneath where the handles will be. It looks so nice all put together. Okay. I thought about it, went inside, warmed up. It is literally the single best idea I've come up with to make this thing not warp. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm still going to try and straighten it out before doing that. After I failed the hardening the first time, I put it back over the fire and ended up re-annealing it because I knew I was going to have to try again and I wanted to take all the stresses out. So I'm able to bend it here with really no trouble at all. Just this way I don't put more scale on it, I don't put any more hammer marks in it. Nice and easy. Look how much it moves though, how much stress there was fighting against itself as I cut it apart there. It's really impressive. And I have made this. It needs to be completed, but this will stop it from twisting side to side. I need to go back now and weld on a reinforcement on the back of these. So with spacers here to keep this all but squeezing this so it can still move, and probably a few loops of baling wire to hold it up. This is ready to be put into the forge. So I just have to cut these little pieces here, weld them on there to lock everything in, make sure it's nicely supported, and this is pretty much ready to go. I've gone and bought a bunch of new materials, got a bunch more charcoal and a bunch more oil, and hopefully it's gonna work, because if this time doesn't work, that's it. We'll just give the guy the wall hanger he wanted, unhardened, made as pretty as I can. On the one hand, this idea felt completely crazy. On the other hand, it seemed like it had all the answers, like it would work. So, we'll just have to see. I added more bricks to the bottom layer there underneath these taller bricks you still see, so if it still looks the same height, that's misleading. It's just because the big bricks had that funky edge I couldn't really stack on top. And in it goes. Just the right size, just barely. Yeah, I should do that. Now I have to put it in and then build the coals up around it. If I can see just in there, the sword is up to temperature on the tips already. I just need to let the fire proceed upwards in the middle. Putting the oil in here at the last minute while it's just about heated because that tank still leaks. Not very fast, not nearly as fast as before, but it is leaking, so I'm on a time limit. But I had to get the oil in and get it preheated because it stayed in my car overnight and almost froze. Gloves. Yeah, I must get that without gloves. Oh boy. Gotta pick it up and get that piece that's holding it up to fall out before I can dunk it. You have to drop it. No, there's a hot spot. Okay, in it goes. I think it's still hot enough. Ah! Well, that's what it's gonna be, folks. I think that'll do. Wow, that was cool. Oh, it didn't come out perfect. The oil wasn't as high as I needed it to be, just by a little bit because of that leak. So right in the middle, I'm just splashing the oil up to stop it from... Still got live coals on this thing, causing it to erupt back into flame. And it's still really hot. But, just from a quick glance, I don't think it warped. Oh, that looks pretty good. Cool. Very cool. And no, I didn't know there was glare on the camera. So looking along the edge, look at that. That is pretty great. Now, as I worried, one tip was taking some force, so it did bend over just a little bit on the very end. So overall, it looks really great. I mean, there's the smallest amount of warp that I'm able to take out later as I temper it, as I grind it. No problem at all. Get the file check. Those outer bigger spikes, not as hard as I'd like, but in a minute I'm actually going to be redoing their heat treat with the torch, just so I can fix that bent over tip. Awesome. So now I just have to put it back together. I ground down the pieces that I cut out so that they have these, nice angles on them, so I can get the weld right down to the middle. The welds I do this time are much prettier with all the extra practice I've had. Look at those. Yeah, there we go. It goes right back together, nice and easy. And then it's time to do the heat treat on the outside blades, just to see if I can't correct that little bit of curve. So I heat it back up again, hammer it out, and then using just a little dish of oil, get those tips hardened. The reason they didn't get as hard as I would have wanted is, honestly, I think they were too hot. They were so close to the heat that they were just too warm to cool fast enough. Okay, that worked. The end of this is now hard. So now I'm just going to knock those welds down real quick and then clean up the faces. That way it'll have a nice shiny surface so I can temper this before I break it. Even with all the mild steel in this thing, it's very cold out, and cold steel breaks easier than, warm steel, and it's just cold. So the tempering process, if you don't know, is releasing some of the tension, some of the stresses in the steel. It's making it tougher. You lose a little bit of hardness, but you gain a lot of toughness. So it's important. It's pretty. Very pretty colors. Ideally, this would sit in an oven at the correct temperature for an hour or two, twice. That's not going to happen. Now I just need to sharpen the bevels down to the final edge that I'm going to finish off with a hand sand.
It's getting a lot trickier to hold this sword.
I've cut out most of the remaining grinding here because, well, I don't know about you, but I was tired of grinding at this point. I've cut out hours worth.
Yep. No surprise. Oh, some more blood. Look at that. I don't need all my blood, do I? Not all of it.
And then once all that's done, inside where it's nice and warm on my dining room table, and hand sand. Lots and lots of hand sanding. Just enough here so you can get the idea and see that really satisfying process as the whole piece of metal goes clean. Then it was time to etch in my touch mark. I just masked it off with a piece of vinyl, a little vinyl decal, some tape, and then ferric chloride on top. And it didn't go far enough the first time, so I pushed it back down and went for a second run. Now this meant that it bleeds just a teeny little bit around the decal, but that's easy enough to clean up. I've just got some 1200 grit sandpaper here, and there you go. Now I'm going to mask off one whole side and etch the entire other side, and that's going to bring out the whole two steel composition. Look at that. Now, some of that's going to fade a little bit because the etched steel has particles on it that'll come off, and those are the darkest pieces. It looks really cool. Here, let me take a look at this. Science. Pretty sweet colors, huh? You can really see that border, and that's what I wanted. I neutralized it with a window cleaner. The ammonia in the window cleaner serves to neutralize the acid quite nicely. I'm going to get it all cleaned up. And then off camera, I'm going to tape up the other side and do it again. This is basically clean. I'm going to rub it down with acetone and... Oh, that was a hair, not a crack. Oh, good. Just to make sure it's fully clean and then get to it. Not gonna lie, for a second there, seeing that hair on the piece of steel made my heart drop. I thought there was a giant crack. It's just peeling it all off. I gotta neutralize it. And we're almost done. Just one cleanup from the etching pass, and now I need to do the final polish on the bevels. The etchant will eat into the edge very slightly, and I don't want that. Plus it makes the beveled edge shiny in comparison to the etched high carbon steel, which gives it that extra bit of just, I don't know, gorgeous visual flair. So I did the thing where I wanted to do the thing, and I forgot to record any of it. And I have successfully tested out wrapping one of the handles. I ordered some leather off of the internet. So I have 2 more handles to do. And then we're done. So I've soaked the leather there in the bowl, which is why the water's yellow now. And after 3 tries, I get the second handle on such that it matches the first. I have much better luck with the third handle. They're mostly just held under there with pressure, and the water helps form it to the steel, and then there's a little bit of glue at the beginning and end to keep them in place. It's that simple. Originally I thought I was going to need some scales or something under the leather, but after testing the first one, it was a thick enough piece of leather that it felt great. I'm just doing a final cleanup now, rubbing a little oil into it to stop any corrosion, make it a little bit shinier. And, well, it's finished. So that's it. It's all done. I wish I'd set it up somewhere prettier and taken really nice photography and video of it, but that's about what I had the time and knowledge and equipment for at the time. It's a gorgeous piece, and I love it for every flaw it has, and I sure don't want to give it away, but...
Yeah.
Oh well. What do you think, Batman? Is it cool? Yeah. I don't think she approves. Now this would be the part in the video where you test it. I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. If I were to take this thing and hit something with it, and a crack appeared, or it warped the edge slightly, my heart would break into many pieces, and then I would die. And it would be terrible. So that's it. I really appreciate you watching. If you'd like to support more content like this, just like, subscribe, and please leave a comment. I'd love to answer any questions anyone has about it. Also, I've finally remembered to link my website down in the description. I do take commissions, so please get in touch if there's anything you'd like me to make. Okay, this is ridiculous, but I actually can see using